Is there anything you're doing in your business as far as marketing that's different than what I'm teaching is the question I'm asking?
To me, I just want to get someone on the phone. Doing the research and due diligence prior to, I know the numbers, I know the market, and I just try to keep things as simple as possible.
Like, what were your goals getting into this thing? You said 6 months. Like, what were your goals going in?
Yeah, so like, I talk about cards. I'm just going to show this to you. This is my card that sits here on my desk every single day. And this is my overarching goal. And it says...
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Apke, joined today by Chad Atcherboni. I'm really happy to have you, Chad. The crazy thing is, I don't think I've honestly had someone on a podcast who is as new as you are. I was looking up before this, the dates. I'm like, oh, he just started in June. And I believe you don't have any experience with land prior to this. So, I mean, you've taken this business model head on. Really, really happy to have you.
Thanks for having me, Ron. The newcomer, I would say probably really starts in July, mid-July. I got rolling with you guys end of June, started talking to you, and then first mailers, marketing went out mid-July, so I kind of count that as my official start date. But yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this discussion. Yeah,
so let's get into, Chad, how you started in land investing, how you found us, everything like that. Some people are big into doing all the research in the world, and it takes them a couple months to make a decision. From when you first heard about land investing to when you made that decision, what did that look like?
Yeah, so, I'm currently W-2. I've been in the tech sector for roughly 10 years. And about three and a half years ago, I have an uncle that does really well in real estate. And so I was talking about my life and, my career and, in tech, we get commission checks, right? We eat what we kill and we really thrive on those commission checks. And he's like, you got to take some of those commission checks, you got to start investing in real estate. So I actually set out and I was like, all right, let's check out multifamily. And I looked at multifamily and I took one of those commission checks and I invested into a fourplex in Boise, Idaho. I found it via direct letters. Funny enough, I sent out mail to all these homeowners that own fourplexes in Boise, and I found a great deal. Like, I found it off market. It was under market value. This lady had like mold projects she didn't want to finish. And so I was like, I'll take it over. And I bought the property, got under contract, flew up there, checked it out. I interviewed the property manager that was currently managing the property. Rents were way below under market. I'm like, okay, we can optimize here as well. So I went, closed on it, fired the property management company, hired a new one, raised rents, did a cash out refi in about a year and a half. Was getting about a 30% cash on cash return, saw what it did in my net worth. I'm like, holy crap, this real estate thing is real, right? So I'm like, this is great. So now fast forward, a couple of years later, I'm trying to figure out ways to grow my cash flow. And, the way that the market was going, I hit somewhat of a triple as far as a deal coming out of the box. And I was looking at underwriting all these multifamily deals. I'm like, how do I get my cash flow to subsidize my W-2 income? And I realized I needed like 500 to 1,000 doors to really do that, right? And then you have all those typical problems, the tenants, the termites, the toilets, like everything that really needs into the cash flow. You have one HVAC go, and all of a sudden that cash flow that you accumulated is all of a sudden gone. I'm like, okay, I can't live like that. So I really started to search for different business models that were out there in real estate because I truly enjoy just talking real estate and the basic principles of it. And I tried multiple things. I tried raising capital from guys in tech like myself and investing in deals. I'm involved in a couple syndications and multifamily properties, things like that. And then I was like, how do I find a business model that can actually be performed as a business? And I came across you guys in the land business. And I just came in, infatuated with it and started listening to podcast after podcast after podcast, research, YouTube University. And I was like, okay, and I came with, saw you and Dan. I'm like, I want to give this a shot. And I jumped in.
Very interesting. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. So many people look into getting into real estate, and the word passive, I think, just goes around. And like, if something's truly passive, like, you're just not going to get a good cash on cash typically, because even multifamily, that's not passive. Syndications are passive for the most part. Real estate stocks, those type of things are obviously passive. but you need so much money up front to have any type of quote unquote passive income. So you need to flip land, flip houses, do wholesaling, something that actually brings in a good amount of cash. How long was like once you learned about land, how long was that before you purchased the education or anything like that? How, or short,
2 months.
how, what?
2 months. I was, flying to my customers, because being in tech sales, like I got customers in San Francisco, Houston, Chicago. So like I'm on the road, on planes. And when I'm there, I was just researching it for, a couple plane rides. And I finally landed, I live here in Southern California. I landed in John Wayne, and I listened to one podcast that you guys had about, making six figures. And as soon as I hit that deck, I remember I texted my brother. I'm like, dude, I'm going in on this. And then reached out, and the rest was kind of history.
Awesome. Was there, I guess that was kind of the aha moment, was that podcast, or was there other times? Like a lot of people need, I don't know, proof of concept. It's hard to get proof of concept till you're actually doing it. But there's obviously testimonials, that kind of stuff. Was there something that like clicked, like this makes sense, this works, I see people doing it? What, is there anything like that?
I mean, the proof of concepts you hear from other people, right? And I'm always a little hesitant to, you hear somebody, all these courses are so relevant online these days, right? You guys got pushing courses all over the place. And so when you see the results, it's kind of like, I don't know how much I trust that. But with hearing the stories of some of these people, doing these land deals and whatnot, I'm like, okay, I can do this. Another big component for me is like, I'm a big believer in self-development. So a book that I really honed in on and read like 3 or 4 times is Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure everyone's heard about it. You probably read it too. And like Jim Rohn, I love listening to some of his education. And it's like, for me, my basic framework or principles is do research, assess the research, put a plan together, set a goal, and then go after it. Because if I do those things, I'm kind of moving the ball down the field, and then I can have an appropriate timeline to that. And so like, it's funny, I have like my little goal card right here that I read in the morning and then I read at night. And it was all about my land goal and what I want to do with land. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but I'm closing in on that goal. If not, I'm going to exceed it for that first 6 months. So I kind of gave myself like a 6-month window from when I signed up with you guys and until that end of the runway. And everything is almost running too well right now, to be honest with you guys' education.
Getting nervous about how well it's running.
Yeah.
Were there other business models because you were looking for higher cash flow? Were there other business models you were evaluating at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm invested in a couple syndications. To your point, Ron, like you need a lot of money to make like good cash flow from those syndications, right? So I looked at those. I raised capital, and when I was raising capital, I was realizing how much time that takes. I got to jump on a phone. I got to educate the person about the deal, right? That person then is also trusting me, but it's not really trusting me. They're really trusting the end general partner who's actually running the deal. And so I'm spending so much time on these phone calls for like a little, management fee of whatever it is. And there's guys that, by the way, that do absolutely well doing that. I just didn't really enjoy it. So like I dabbled there and then trying to purchase more multifamily properties. I looked at the Section 8 stuff. I looked at, all of those, short-term rentals. I'm invested in a couple of those, but they're so time intensive and like the business models just weren't really fitting my framework. And what I found with land, what I do in tech sales, like I'm in enterprise sales, land really translates well with my skill set tech really translates well for my skill set into land. Getting to know people, marketing. How important is marketing, Ron? Like we talk, you guys preach it all the time. Marketing, marketing, marketing. Once you stop that marketing funnel and it cuts off, your deal's cut off. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of so simple in reality. Create a marketing plan, stick to the marketing plan, make sure you get your mailers out, make sure you do your text message follow-up, and the pipeline will flow, right? For us in sales, pipeline's everything. Once, the pipeline in the process. So that was kind of key for me in regards to understanding the different assets I was looking at versus land. And I was like, land, wow, this can really match with my skill set, and it can be a business that I can build out and scale. So that's kind of what made me take the plunge.
Yeah. Initially so you joined around the time when we were transitioning, like we used to only coach people one-on-one who had taken our course, who had some experience. And you were like one of the first, as far as where we transitioned, like, let's help these people who are ready to dive all in from the beginning. Let's help them one-on-one from the start. And you invested more money to get one-on-one help. Can you talk about that a little bit? not only like the experience of it, but also the mindset around like, okay, I'm gonna it's 3 times as much money to do that, and you get help for 90 days, one-on-one help to get you off the ground. Can you talk about that kind of mindset?
Absolutely. So one thing I think about is how can I limit my mistakes? That's the biggest thing. Number one, do I have the capital to do it? So you don't want to stretch yourself thin. Luckily for me, I had the capital to invest. And then number two, how can I limit my mistakes? I don't want to make mistakes, especially big mistakes that cost you, 5, 6 figures, right? So when I had that opportunity to understand about the program and working with Ant and the kind of the one-on-one mentorship, once I had that kind of framework, I was like, okay, this is really a no-brainer. And then the mentality, I think, to your point, Ron, is like you have to come in. You guys give us the tools to be successful, right? Now it's up to me to take those tools and implement them every day. So that was like, around, we talked about basketball a little bit, right? And I love Kobe. I love like the David Goggins. I love like all those guys. And when they talk about what they really preach is how you perform is how you practice, right? So what are my standards? And so when my mentality was going into this, I'd be like, I need to be so diligent in regards to this business so I can succeed and follow the framework that you guys have put forward. And I just stuck to that. Like I have a little sticky note that just says, hey, did I work on the business today for 1 to 2 hours? Did I get my marketing out? And did I follow up in a prompt response in a short amount of time to the people that were reaching out to me? And I really just stuck to that, and things have been going well.
What you're saying sounds so easy in principle, and like it sounds like, okay, yeah, anyone could do that. It's not the fact, because as far as like the consistency aspect, and then the most difficult thing I think is people, two things. So getting through difficult times and also avoiding distractions. There's so many distractions in this world. There's so many making money fast schemes or whatever you want to call them, and people get distracted. They get to one hard point, then they go on to the next thing, and they think they failed at this thing when they really never gave this thing a shot. I know you've had a lot of early success, but I'm sure we'll get into some hurdles and stuff. But let's get into land stuff. I'm sure people are wanting to hear like, okay, Chad's on here. He just started this 2 months ago. What the hell is he doing on this podcast? Let's talk about some land things, what you've done so far. What did that look like, that first marketing? We don't have to get into locations or anything like that, but I've seen your numbers. You've sent me projected numbers. It's unbelievable what you've done so fast. But what did that first mailer look like? What was your success? How many mailers was it about?
Yep. So, luckily with you guys have an amazing product in the software, the land portal. So it's pretty, we talk about keeping things simple. Like, I'm a chop wood, carry water guy. Keep it super simple, Chad, right? And so I picked my county. I did a bunch of research, spent hours researching the county, used all the variables that you guys laid out for us in the course around making sure you pick the right county. Did that. I pulled the list. Wanted anywhere from like roughly to have 2,000 to 5,000 properties, and this first list had about 2,200. And I sent out the direct mail. It was for anywhere from 1.5 acres all the way up to 30 acres, and the deal started rolling in. And then so I just had my system set up to be successful. I got my first deal done in actually 1 quarter, right? So this first deal was the gentleman owned actually 40 acres, and it was 4 10-acre parcels. And 2 of the back parcels were actually landlocked, and then the 2 front parcels were had road frontage, were on the road. And he was actually selling the bottom right parcel, and he was in the midst of selling the bottom right parcel, which had a house on it, and then he wanted to sell me the remaining 30 acres. So we were negotiating around prices and things like that, and then a couple things came up. And one thing I want to caveat is, like, for me, I'm a relationship guy. I'm not going to push people to do things super quickly. I'm not going to give you end dates on stuff. I know everyone has different methodologies around that, like, expiration dates on offers, etc. I'm kind of like, move as fast as you want to. I'm here to help you solve a problem. And this guy wanted to offload these 30 acres. And so we're going back and forth. And one of his neighbors actually came into play because he wanted to purchase the parcels, the remaining parcels. Or he wanted to purchase actually the 2 back parcels that were landlocked because they're really good for, hunting. And so he wanted to put an easement through the parcel that I was looking at. So now we're just talking about the 10-acre parcel. And he wanted to put this easement through it. I'm like, I don't know if we can, put this easement through. And I sat and I talked to it. I talked to Ant. He's like, no, that's a done deal. So I called him back and I said, hey, look, we can't put this easement through this property. I'm walking away from the deal. He says, okay, let me think about this. Calls me back in 24 hours and he just says, hey, Chad, you know what? I told that guy to go, buzz off. I want to sell this 10-acre property to you. So in working with you guys, we understood the market, and I'm like, okay, hey, Mr. Seller, how much do you want for this? Tell me like what's your bill price? And he said, okay, I want 34,000. I'm like, okay, I knew the market. I'm like, done, deal. Sent him the purchase agreement. We signed. Got it. Went through escrow. Everything went really well. Super clean, easy deed. No restrictions on the property really. Got the property on market. Sold the property in 20. Property went on market. We got an offer in 6 days. All cash offer, closed in 2.5 weeks. Closed for $86,000. So
Wow.
you remove closing costs, everything like that. It was roughly about $79,000. I got a wire to my bank account for 44 grand. Cash conversion cycle was about 27 days, which is pretty fantastic. And the cash on cash return was 125%. And so when that happened, I'm like, holy shit, like, all right, tell me more. And so now we've got that ball rolling, and I was talking about the kind of the systems I have in play, or right, it's just following up and doing those and moving forward with those.
When I hear stories like that, and you're so new when it happened, I wonder like the percent of people who are going to make that deal happen versus trying to force the seller into doing something, opposed to what you did, which is just building a relationship, like you assuring him like you can make this happen. That's interesting. And rarely is a first deal like a straightforward deal. Like there aren't that many just straightforward deals. There's no, I don't want to say hiccups. That's probably not the right word, but you had to do something differently where he had another person talk to him. Everyone wonders always like about competition. That competition, just lack of that quote unquote competition, you still had a $50,000 margin, which is insane to think about. And you just asked him what he's looking for. And you've talked about survey hacking, I know you've looked into survey hacking, and I don't want to say that's survey hacking, but it's the idea behind it is that guy had a house. He's going to make most of his money selling the house, right? Like that's where he's going to make his money. He's just trying to get a little bit of extra cash for those other 30 acres. Have you looked into survey hacking more, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So like this is what I'm trying to get to next in like my business model. When I saw that, I'm like, and this goes to the basic premise of land, which I love about land. There's so many things you can do. You can get things rezoned. You can survey hack. You can subdivide. I'm starting to learn about entitlements. Like the world is your oyster with land. You can do, rezones, right? As long as you have like the exit strategy or know the market, there's a plethora of things you can do. For example, I have another deal. In Q3, I've pretty much got 6 deals essentially locked up. 3 deals. One has gone full cycle, that deal that I told you about. Two I closed on this week that I officially own now. We're going to put back on the market. That's going to be another 30 or 40 grand in profit for me. Then I have just found this one deal with this gentleman, again, talking about relationships, Ron. This guy's getting hit up about his property. And you actually helped me look at this deal. And one thing I found, I actually almost missed it, is it's 11 acres. I start talking to this guy, and he's like, you know what, Chad? I'm done taking all these calls. This one guy just offered me earnest money. He wanted to close on the same day, and I'm just not that guy. Like, I developed a relationship with you. I want to sell this to you. So I start looking at this property a little bit more, and it's one parcel number, but it's actually 2 pieces of land. And the land is separated by one piece of land right in the middle of it where a house sits. But the north parcel is 7 acres, and it's actually agriculture. And the parcel that's below it to the south is actually 4 acres, and it's undeveloped. So I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. So again, it's kind of like a little survey hack almost, or maybe like a mini subdivide, but it's just still one parcel. So I think another key thing that I want to share, if anybody's listening, is how important boots on the ground or developing a relationship with a broker in that specific market, because they know that market by the back of the hand. And I say that because, we looked at this deal, and the way we assessed it, it was going to be profitable. But I didn't know it was agriculture and then undeveloped, and undeveloped can be sold as residential. So I start talking to this broker, and we start looking at these numbers, and I have this under contract right now. I have it under contract for $83,000, Ron. It turns out that the northern parcel, the agriculture land, is worth 115. The southern parcel, the undeveloped, is worth 130.
My
Only
goodness.
thing I need to do is get a separate parcel number, which is super easy through this county because we've done the research, and we're gonna make it into a second parcel, and we're gonna sell those separately. And I have this written down, and that return is gonna. So I'm buying it for roughly about 84,000 all in. Sale price will be roughly $220,000 with us.
That's unbelievable. That is so you own three other properties. So like what are your let's back up a couple. That's unbelievable. Let's back up a few steps and like what were your goals getting into this thing? You said 6 months. Like what, because we've already heard two of your deals that are going to be, I don't know, $200,000 of profit almost. I know you have other things in the pipeline as well. But what were your goals? Like, this is what I want to get done in these 6 months. If you're going from June, July to December, end of year is what it sounds like you kind of laid out your plan. What were your goals going in?
Yeah, so like I talk about cards. I'm just going to show this to you. This is my card that that sits here on my desk every single day. And this is my overarching goal. And it says this, I speak in present terms. It says, I'm grateful for achieving a net profit of $200,000 from my land business, Chabrick Land Company, by November 4th, 2024. With God's guidance, my focus and belief in myself have been unwavering, leading to success. I provided clients with invaluable land services and investments, meticulously following my business plan, and I affirm the success morning and night, visualizing my business thriving and the goal realized. That's my overall arching goal. That's by November 4th, 2024, which I'm tracking on to hit, right? So that was a high level. When I looked at it from more in the weeds or in the bunker, I set out a couple goals. Set out at least 10,000 direct letters, and then send out at least 6,000 text messages. Those were really my two only goals, because based on what the research and everything I heard, if I sent those out, I know I would get leads. I know something would come to fruition. And if I did text message follow up based again on research, I know I'd have conversation. And it's all about just getting deals and assessing the deals and then having an exit strategy and moving on.
You just the way you talk about this, having goals, having basically a mission written down. Like it's not just I'm going to make X dollars. It's like, what are you doing for the sellers as well? Like it is a real business you're running. Some people look at it, come into this, and it's just like, it's a side hustle, it's a gig, or it's a deal. Like you don't look at this business like it's a deal or that. Like it is a business, running it like a marketing machine, sales machine when you have leads coming in. Talk about your different marketing strategies. What is getting deals? What's working? What's not working? If something's not working, what are your different marketing strategies?
Yep. So my marketing flow right now, or process, is pick the county, make sure that there's at least 2,000 to 5,000 properties, send direct mail. Do blind offers on some of them, and then do text message follow-up. After those mailers go out, I wait about a week to 2 weeks, and then send a text message follow-up, and that's kind of my marketing program right now. With the way things are going, I'm trying to maybe pivot and do more of a sniper approach. I love the six-figure deals, right? The little deals take as much time as the big deals. Like this little deal that I got going on right now is buy for 14, sell for 30. I had to send a mobile notary out. I had to do all these little things. I missed something on the deed, and the deed had two people's names, and one of those people was deceased, unfortunately, and it was a tenant in common. So there was hires on it, and it delayed it by 3 weeks. So I'm like, okay, it's taking me so much time to do, and while the profit is great, right, it's still great cash. I'm trying to focus more on the bigger ones. And so I'm maybe looking at pivoting my marketing approach a little bit right now, keeping this approach that I got going, direct mail followed by text message follow-up. Now also add a little wrinkle in regards to large deals with greater road frontage, greater acres, 40 acres and above, etc. So I kind of got long-winded there, Ron, but my basic principle really is direct mail with text message follow-up, plain and simple.
Are there what responses are you getting? I don't know how data driven you are as far as like what responses you're getting from where, like where are the deals coming from, or is it a combination? Like, do you not get that many responses till after the text, or like what is it? What does it look like? Can you deem where the deals are coming from?
Yep, it's 50-50. So the 6 deals I had in Q3, I just work on a calendar year basis, fiscal year. So from July till September, the 6 deals that I've got, 50%. 3 have come from text message, 3 have come from direct mail.
But those text messages aren't cold still, so there's still like a combination. There's still value in that first piece of mail, right? You think?
Correct. So there's still value in the first piece of mail. Granted, networking with some guys in the community, there's a couple guys I know that are just doing straight text messages. And so I would advise, like, if you're getting into the business and maybe you don't have a lot of cash, because, Ron, we know mail is expensive to send, right? It can be pretty pricey. So if you're maybe strapped for some cash, leverage text message. I know there's guys, buddies and people in the group that are just doing solely cold text message outreach, and it's working too. So I would say it's not the same for everyone.
Was it you who asked me about downloading Do Not Call people from text message from Launch Control, or is that someone else who wanted to?
Wasn't me.
Okay. I was actually on Launch Control's podcast earlier today, and I've just seen so much success from texting, so I really want to use them as a resource, and they're such a good resource. They have so much customer success, so many people, customer success there. I think a combination is the best way to do this business. But like you said, people are cold texting very, very successfully. Is there anything you're doing in your business as far as marketing that's different different than what I'm teaching is the question I'm asking?
Not necessarily, no. I'm just doing the basic blocking and tackling. And I really think that's it. To me, I just want to get someone on the phone. That's all I want to do. Because when I get someone on the phone, doing the research and due diligence prior to, I know the numbers, I know the market, I understand that stuff. So I'm just keeping it very super simple right now for this first year. For us, for my business personally, I'm trying to, my goal for this year is to do $1 million in gross profit. That's my goal. And with what I have currently working right now, I think we can possibly get there. It's going to take a lot, but it's trending. And I just try to keep things as simple as possible.
You said this year, like 2024, or your first 12 months?
No, not so sorry. I do it based on when I started. So not.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. My goodness, we're going from $200,000 to $1 million. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely real. And you start. That's the thing. You start adding in these $100,000, $200,000 profit deals like that. Buy for 80, sell for 230. That's 15% of $1 million right there. That's one deal. And that's the greatness. That's the great part about this is, and Dylan, I was just talking to, I was texting him back and forth. Dylan Roosh, if you're familiar with him, I'm sure he was on our podcast. He said he's doing a double close right now, buy for $575, sell for $850. Those deals are out there, and he has $0 out of his pocket for something like that. So what?
And Ron, let me pause, to that point. And one thing I love about your guys' community, and I heard this, I forget where I heard this quote. But the quote was, cash flow gets you out, community keeps you out. And so when those examples with Dylan and stuff like that, you hear these things, that's one thing I love, is you get so many ideas on the business. I haven't done a double close yet, right? That's not really something I thought about. I purchased the property with my own capital. Luckily enough, I have the capital, and I put it back on market. But that example right there, and then that knowledge and the network too, is incredible.
Yeah, and I saw one on Discord the other day. It was buy for 45, sell for 66. And these are unbelievable margins and profit in other business models. It's just another deal here. And I think double closing becomes really interesting when you talk about those $500,000 purchases where it might be hard to get. I mean, some people might be able to find funding if it sells for $750 or something like that. But double closing, that makes a ton of sense. Obviously, making $200,000, and Dylan's about to make $275,000. He already has a buyer lined up. It's not like it's a theoretical thing. He just texted me. He's like, I have this closing October 25th. I can read the text message. I think he said, buy for, let's see what he said. He said, buy for $575, sell for $850. Already under contract to sell and to buy. So yeah, the opportunity there. Talk about your goals. You said you should be able to hit your 200 profit by November 4th. Is that full cycle, or are you talking about projected profit? Let's talk about your projection of what your pipeline looks like right now.
Yeah, so that's I don't think I'll be able to. So one thing I'm learning about the business, the way I'm thinking about it right now, and love your, your experience in this, Ron. If I buy something in one quarter, almost like, I acquire it one quarter, I'll most likely be able to recoup that or dispose it and receive the capital back the following quarter. So
Mhm.
for me, I started in the middle of July. These numbers that we're talking about, I think I will be able to see them. I should be able to see them in Q4, and that in Q4 is October, November, December, right? So I don't know if I'll get to that November 4th date specifically, but it'll be maybe just a little bit after that, and might fall in a little bit to December because the market I'm at, with weather, things like that, et cetera, might impact a little things. But it's I I'll be able to get close to it and then achieve it if not right after.
That's exciting. What point? Tell me you don't want to answer this if you don't. What point are you gonna transition from a 9 to 5?
Yeah, good point. So I was talking to my wife about this, and to be honest, I'm kind of lucky, and like I call it like a hybrid model, or maybe like a W2 newer, like an entrepreneur, but with like a W2. Like I love my tech job. Right now, like we just had a kid, and in August 1st, and I've only been working on this like 1 to 2 hours a day, right? So like I'm like sitting here thinking, I love my current gig, and what it does is it gives me capital to invest in deals. Like it gives me capital to do the things to keep the sole business mine. That way, I don't have to bring in investors. And there's nothing wrong with bringing investors or going to capital and things like that. But I just like to operate that way because I can move faster. I recoup all the revenue. It's all the profit goes straight to me. So I really haven't been able to pinpoint like an exact time because like I do thoroughly enjoy the job. And then with how the amount of time I'm spending currently right now, that 1 to 2 hours, it's it's feasible with the current job I have. So to answer your question in a way, Ron, it's like I haven't I actually came into this like, oh, I'm going to quit by like this date. But now that I'm getting things up and rolling, it's kind of like a really good business model that I have.
Yeah, so like the education phase, and you can talk about that. The education phase is like that's the difficult part to get through for a lot of people who are doing a W2. Like once you get rolling, once you learn how to navigate deals and everything like that, like you don't need more than a couple hours a day, which is amazing. It sounds like that's what you're doing. Were there any hurdles at the beginning? Like everything sounds so like blue sky and sunny for you. Were there any hurdles? Anything that happened that was like, crap, this did not go well, or made you nervous, or learning lessons in general?
Yeah, I mean, so just from like getting into the course, like I think I'm not the type of guy to burn the boats. Like I understand risk, right? I calculate the risk. I'm a big believer in calculated risk. Look at what you're making a decision on. Understand the worst case scenario, and does it put your lifestyle in jeopardy? Does it put your family in jeopardy? What does it do? And if the answer is it doesn't do any of that stuff, okay, jump in the water. Get your feet wet. And so when I was looking at this, I would say I'm kind of disappointed I didn't move on it faster, right? I think that was one thing. I think a second thing too is I like to kind of move quick. Sometimes that's why I've said it multiple times now. I need to slow down. Due diligence for me, I've not been the best. Ant's given me some coaching around like I've gotten the property like that deed I talked to you about. I even negotiated against myself on a deal, Ron, because that one like I actually lost $1,000 because a real estate agent got involved for this party on one of these deals, and I was talking to her about it. I got the property under contract for 11,900, and actually I was telling her 12,900, and then so they were like, so I negotiated myself out of $1,000. At the end of the day, I was like, is it killer? No. Did I learn something? Yes. You know what I mean? So little
Yeah.
things like that, and that's one thing I love about this model is you can go as fast as you want to go. Um, but then another thing is just I think understanding the title process, right? The deed process, the restrictions on land. Is there sewer? Is there septic? Do you need a perk test? Like what certain things? For me, I was kind of like go 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 buy buy buy. I needed to again slow down and understand those details because they're important in the long game. So to answer your question, I think due diligence for me, I needed to do a definite better job of instead of moving so fast.
And like you said at the beginning, you invested in one-on-one coaching to minimize mistakes. And I think to credit to you and to Anthony, like you guys obviously did it. Like avoid mistakes in this business are expensive. I remember sending messing up addresses on a full mailer, addresses, every single, no, it's phone numbers. So every phone number, I dragged it down and our phone number was different on every single letter. So that didn't work out too well. Yeah, their mistakes are expensive in this business. And I think you did a really good job of avoiding like any big killer mistakes, and you keep learning, which is amazing. Talk to someone who is interested in getting in this business. You said a couple minutes ago you wish you got in it sooner. Some people, unfortunately, never get into it because they have cold feet or something like that. Like, just talk to what's advice you can give to someone who's thinking about it, who has the capital, who has a little bit of time to put in. What would you say to them?
Yeah, and I would even say to that statement, no capital or capital. There's ways for you to get into this business, right? And if there's not, create a plan to do so. I mean, Chat GPT, I want to call it Chad GPT. Someone already picked that one because like I use it so much just for basic things. Write it down on a pen and paper. Like set your goal, what you want to achieve, and then reverse engineer that, and then write it down, and you can have your answer, right? And I think so if people are looking to get in the business, and I mentioned this before, it's gonna be a risk, right? But like, you're going out and spending money on nice dinners. You're going out and spending money on clothes. How important is your lifestyle to you? Like, what's your end goal for yourself? Like, sit down, really think about what you want to achieve, what you want out of your life, the lifestyle, and because this business can deliver it to you. So if I were to give anyone advice that's like thinking about this, I'm a big believer in the Pomodoro technique. Have you heard about the Pomodoro technique, Ron?
I haven't.
So it's like a nice little Google Chrome extension. And so like you can put a little timer on there, and I do it for like 45 minutes, and it just tracks my time. And I sit down and I start that timer, and for 45 minutes I do nothing but strategize around the business and creating a plan for myself. Do that as a basic first step, and then you can have your answers and how you're going to move forward.
I talked to someone a couple of days ago, or maybe it was I don't know, maybe it was yesterday. I don't remember. But they just like, I need to convince my wife. Did you ever have to convince your wife, or like your wife was also 8 months pregnant also at the time. Like going into something like, what the hell are you doing, Chad? But what was that like?
So I think, Ron, I think we're both married guys here, and I think communication is one of the most key important parts of any type of relationship. Fair statement?
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect. Yeah.
So, the significant other is especially important in any decision you make. So with her, I'm just always communicative around the plan. And like, again, I talked about the calculated risk. I think that's like the third time I mentioned it. I just let her know, hey, this is my plan. This is what I want to do, A, B, and C. And this is the worst case scenario for us. And it's not putting our lifestyle in jeopardy. It's not, going to put you in jeopardy. We're going to be able to sustain everything. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? And luckily for me, I married someone who trusts me kind of from that aspect. And she was like, all right, too close for missiles. We're switching to guns. Let's move forward on this thing. And she just lets it rip.
Yep. So many people with like 9-to-5 jobs, like they think about things like this, and then like they're worried and they want to quit their job, but they don't. And like the worst case scenario of getting into something like this and then failing is going to do your 9-to-5 again, or like doing that till you're 60 years old. And like the best case, the difference between the worst case scenario and the best case scenario is so big. The best case scenario is just amazing. And that's why it's so cool seeing stories like you. Does your wife help you at all in the business, or is it just you, or what's hiring look like?
It's just me. She's saying, we just had a kid, so she's taking care of the kid right now. And
yeah.
My biggest question to her is like, hey, when can I spend time on land? And then
like get some data. Are you doing anything special with the land portal as far as what kind of properties are you eliminating? What does that look like? Land portal, for everyone listening who doesn't know, I know most people probably know, just software that we built as far as pulling data, skip tracing, everything like that. Are you doing anything special with the land portal?
No, man. Like again, basic, just vacant lots. I'm starting to explore a lot more with road frontage. For road frontage, you get bigger type number of or larger deals. So I'm looking at that. I love the new feature that you guys just had for the scrubbing that just came in, so I don't have to go to ChatGPT and scrub data or use Excel formulas to scrub data. So I love the new feature you guys just added with that within the land portal. I just do two basic principles: vacant land, the amount of acres I'm looking for, not landlocked generally, and kind of go from there.
Nice. Well, anything else you want to touch base on in terms of viewers like this? I know you're. We'll definitely do an update with you in 6 months or something like that, where you're, I don't know, 8-10 months in or something like that. Anything else you want to tell the viewers?
No, I think, I mean, if anybody ever wants to chat it up around this and, the land investing online community, I'm more than happy to help anybody and just discuss how you guys have been just awesome advocates, Ron, Dan, and Anthony. I mentioned that quote, cash flow gets you out, community keeps you out. Accountability is huge. You can have accountability groups, but at the end of the day, I really believe if you need an accountability group to hold you accountable, how are you going to be your own entrepreneur in a business, right? Because at the end of the day, you wake up, you put your 2 feet on the ground, and you're responsible for your business. You got to be accountable to yourself. So happy to help, talk about anything land-wise, investing-wise. And I think just take it's working for me. It's working for me, and I can't say anything more than that, really.
That's awesome to hear. I'm so happy for you, Chad. And like the most successful people in this business don't make excuses. They don't blame other people. They don't blame the business model. Like they look internal, and that's exactly what you just said. Other than that, guys, if you guys are listening on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, leave us a review, share it with a friend. It really helps. Chad, again, thank you so much, and we'll get you back on here soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ron.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.